It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through, that I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the road and laugh, but something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days, hard work forever pays. Now I see you in a better place. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began.
You know, we started.
Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
I'll tell you.
When I see you again.
First you both go out your way and the vibe is feeling strong, and what's small turn to a friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken, the love will never get lost. And when brotherhood come first, then the line will never be crossed. Established it on our own when that line had to be drawn, and that line is what we reach, so remember me when I'm gone. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
Let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. Oh, it's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
I just wanted to thank the Meehans for having everyone here today to celebrate Galen's life. He was my best friend and my brother, and I'm privileged to call him that. But I wrote down a couple of words for Kingston when you get older, and I hope you enjoy. To start off, Kingston, your father was my best friend. As a matter of fact, he was the friend of all friends, and that is a prestigious title to hold. He was the kindest, most loving person I've ever met, and his laugh was unique and contagious. If genetics holds true, I can't wait to see how your laugh develops. The story for how Galen and I met will always be in my memory. Galen and I were going to different schools at the time. I was in private school, and Galen was in public school. We were in 8th grade, and we had never met before. We did not know each other. We did not know our paths would cross that night and become brothers for life. I was invited to a birthday party in Clarksville, close to where Greg, your grandfather, lived at the time. My best friend at the time, his name was Stanton Smith. We were at this birthday party and we weren't having fun. So Stan looked at me and said, "My neighbor is pretty cool. and we just needed to walk across the field to go home. So I said, okay, let's go. We walked across the field that was probably 2 football fields long and got back to Stan's house. He knocked on Galen's door and he immediately invited us in with his contagious laugh after we had said we left a birthday party to come over here. Stan introduced me, and I had one of the most fun nights meeting Galen as an adolescent. I went home that night thinking I would probably never see him again as Stan was moving away. However, fate intervened, and due to certain circumstances, I was not invited by my private school I was going to come back. The next option I had was River Hill. I remember on the first day of school going from 400 kids in a private school to 4,000 kids at a public school. I was extremely nervous. As fate would have it again, within the first 200 feet of me entering the school door, I ran into Galen. We both smiled and embraced each other. This was our second meeting. I told him I don't know anyone and I'm super nervous. He said, "Don't worry, let me take you around." He introduced me to many of the friends I still talk to this day. From then on, we developed a brotherly relationship. We were fast friends. I'm glad he was the first friendly face I walked into that day. It changed my life forever. As time went on and we became men, we were both in school and Galen was extremely popular. I was shy and Galen would always introduce me to everything or everyone, or include me in everything and everyone. He helped me develop as a man, but from the transition from a boy to a man, we had many fun adventures together. It started with four-wheeling in Bragdon Woods. Greg, your grandfather, bought 2 four-wheelers for him and Galen. He bought 2 four-wheelers. It was for Greg and Galen to use, but it ended up being me and Galen using them most of the time. I remember one time we decided to go on a really long adventure and ended up many miles away in the field. There was a woman on a horse, and it must have been her property because she started chasing us on horseback. Galen and I naturally turned around and went as fast as we could back to the home's direction where we came from. We got away and were laughing hysterically. However, we then had to cross a river. One of the four-wheeler's motors got flooded going across the river, and I remember being like, I think we're going to be in a lot of trouble with Greg. And Galen didn't panic. He was so good at fixing everything. He took control and told me what to do to help him, and within 10 minutes, we had the four-wheeler fixed. And then we went home, and no one ever found out. As high school ended, there came a point where we were all accepted to college and started to leave school a little earlier. Sarah and Greg had this nice property with a pool, your grandparents. I think that day Becca got sick at school and had to come home early, so Greg had to pick her up. And as I saw him pulling up the driveway, I was in the pool. I knew we may be in big trouble, a bit of trouble, so I dove to the deep end of the pool and held my breath for as long as I could. After some time, I was running out of air and had to surface. I could see Greg upset with everyone that was swimming as I came to the surface. Once I got to the top and took a deep breath of air to get oxygen, I remember Greg just stopped being upset with Galen and it went silent. Greg just looked at me and said, "Jeff, what the hell are you doing?" I was out of breath, and I said in a panic, I replied, "Hiding from you, Mr. Meehan." Galen took the brunt of the responsibility of getting in trouble as he always did. He was always looking out for everyone. Four-wheeling became a part of my life, thanks to Galen. In college, I would spend most winter breaks with the Meehans in Utah. He would snowboard and ski, and I would ski back in the best backcountry terrain you could ever imagine. And on the off days, take ATVs out to some of the best backcountry canyons. There was this one day where Galen and I had been exploring, And as we headed back to the truck, it'd been a long day. He asked me if I wanted to race. There was this desert field before we got to the truck, so I proposed we make a track. We then proceeded to make loops based off rocks in the field. Once that was established, we decided we should do 3 loops and the winner is the better four-wheeler. Galen then all of a sudden, out of the blue, said 1, 2, 3, go. And we took off with reckless abandon. Galen was winning most of the time. I remember us switching places, hearing his laugh and heckle towards me. On the last 100 feet, we were neck and neck. As we approached 5 feet to go, I was able to get a little bit past him. Like, I'm talking just a little bit. It was the most funniest moments of my life. I was able to win. I think it's because I was smaller than Galen. Galen was a large linebacker and was of big stature. So I think I just had less weight and it came to my advantage. We both hopped off the four-wheelers laughing hysterically, loaded them up in the truck, and we always talked about that story many years later. That same trip in Utah, Galen introduced me to his future wife and Kingston's mother, Melody. Galen kept talking about this girl that he really liked, and I said, invite her over. My plane takes off at 8 a.m. tomorrow, man, so this is my last chance to meet her if you really like her. So he did. We stayed up late talking, and at some point, I was like, I need to go to bed, and left them in the basement living room next to Greg's Bowflex machine. I ended up sleeping on the concrete ground in the laundry room that night, so they could start to develop the bond that created Kingston years later. Galen's love for Melody was undeniable. I'm glad I was a part of that. There are so many stories I can tell you one-on-one Kingston later in life. But your father was my best friend and brother. We always had each other's backs. He was genuine and the best man at heart I know. I miss him every day, but he touched more people than most will ever do in an entire lifetime. King, I got your back just like Galen always had mine. That's a promise. I love you, Galen.
Galen and I drove from Baltimore to Salt Lake City one time, and I remember packing the car, and I was so excited just for the drive to go out there and hang out and spend time there. But the actual drive, just getting in a car with Galen and stopping at all these cool little roadside spots and motels, and didn't seem very exciting, but just being there and having fun with every little stop and every little thing we could. That's what Galen did, and that's what Galen always did. Make the most fun out of any situation, have the most fun, live literally every moment in life to the fullest. And then getting there, hanging out with the family, and then taking a four-wheeler trip into these mountains and woods, and we were completely kind of by ourselves, lost in the woods, driving around. Again, just like making games, a little thing. Had a great time just building a fire, finding wood to make a fire, but just really just hanging out and just enjoying life wherever we were, whatever we were doing. But that drive stuck out to me just because of how much fun we had, just sitting in a car with two people for hours on end, just having fun with little things and enjoying life and each other's company, and talking about things and spending time with each other, and really just sharing that experience together. Galen to me was always kind of like a trailblazer, always kind of thinking of new things, and kind of taking his ideas and just running with them and seeing how he could make them happen. If he wanted to do something, he was most likely going to do it one way or another. So that was good to be part of that, and have his creativity and kind of drive and energy that is very rare in most people, to find that level of care and energy and presence to be around. He was always laughing, always having a good time, wanted to be the best he could be, and have the most fun he could at the same time. So it was feeding off his energy and throwing it back in. And I think we had a great chemistry with all of our friends. And I remember one of the first times I met Galen, we were in 7th grade social studies, and we actually became friends and hung out and sat next to each other in Miss Truitt's class. If anyone went to Clarksville Middle, they might remember Miss Truitt, but I was having fun there. She was a little special teacher. She had this game called a Bobaloop, and it was just kind of like a stick with a cradle and a ball on a string. You're supposed to flip it up and catch it in the ball. And if we were good in class, we got to play the Bobaloop. And if we hit the Bobaloop, we got to select a candy prize. And I remember just having fun joking around. And usually me or Galen would be disqualified from doing the Bobaloop and getting the candy prize. Just for being something silly or doing something stupid. But that's how it was, and it was fun. It was probably more fun than actually playing with the Bobaloop. I remember growing up and riding bikes with Galen, middle school. We used to hang out with our BMX bikes and ride them and ride to each other's neighborhoods and different kids that lived around. And it was really good. We're building jumps, and he got really good at whatever he did. Whether it's riding bikes or on the four-wheeler or even playing football when he did. Wasn't the biggest guy, the strongest guy, but just got really good and understood what he was doing and what he had to do with everything. And he would get really good and then kind of move on and find something else to do. But everything he did, he could do it better than anyone else without even trying. I remember it took me maybe a good 2 hours to get up wakeboarding on the board. I think Galen got up his first time, which is crazy. So he also had a very physical ability and understood how to use it.
This speech was written by Katie Mayfield, and it goes as follows. Galen and I became fast friends in 6th grade and spent many hours talking on the phone. He made friends easily and with my group of girlfriends. I remember he would always give me his winter coat when I was cold. In high school, Galen was always beaming and generally happy. I would describe him as a laid-back guy in school, and who could forget about his dreads? When he first did his hair like that, it looked like greasy mess. I told him I didn't think it was a good look, but typically confident Galen said, "Trust me, it's gonna look good." Sure enough, they turned out great, and it became his signature look in school. Years went by, and we stayed in touch. Galen remained charismatic, outgoing, and always made friends so easily. Anywhere we went, he could talk to anyone. My favorite part about Galen was his big heart and the ability to have empathy for anyone, including strangers. He was able to relate and understand what other people were going through. One particular time that really stands out was when he noticed a young man living underneath our neighbor's porch. Without hesitating, Galen offered to help him. Galen prepared meals for him and gave him a bag of clothes. Over the course of several days, Galen kept checking on him and would drop off food. After talking to him and hearing his story, he felt further inclined to help, calling numerous places and secured this young man a spot at a shelter. Galen drove him to the shelter and gave him his number and told him if he ever needed anything to reach out. That act of kindness really describes Galen's huge heart. He was popular and funny, but his kind spirit is what really stood out. He was truly one of a kind, and he will be missed by so many. This next speech was written by Danielle Baxley, who has known Galen for as long as I can remember, and it goes as follows. Dearest Galen, I am so incredibly sad you aren't here anymore. I am so sad for you, so sad for your son and family, and so sad for the people in this world that will miss out on your goodness. I know your family will do an amazing job raising Kingston, but you were so special that it will be nearly impossible for them to capture your essence and pass it on to him. To try and help them a bit, I wanted to share a few stories about you. You were my first high school boyfriend. We used to ride all around in your yellow Jeep. You would always take the doors off. One day while we were driving to get lunch, a bee flew in the Jeep. I was terrified and screaming and took my seatbelt off and tried to climb into the back seat of the moving Jeep to try to escape the bee. You very calmly pulled over to the side of the road and nonchalantly scooped the bee out of the car. While I was, for some reason, still pretty hysterical, you turned around and we went back to your house. You made a few jokes about how ridiculous I was, put the doors back on the Jeep, and then we finally went to lunch. That was the last time I ever drove in your car without doors. From that day forward, without me ever asking, you made sure that every time we were hanging out, the doors were on so I wouldn't be scared. Another time, while you were hanging out having a guys' night with Carl and Thomas, and probably Jeff, you called to say hi. I usually mentioned I was bored. 30 minutes later, showed up at my house and unannounced to take me to get ice cream at Artie's. We hung out for an hour, and then you drove all the way back to Thomas's to finish hanging out with your friends. You had stopped what you were doing with your friends to try to make me feel sure that I was having fun. These stories are from a long time ago, but I will never forget how you made me feel. You were so fun to be around. You went on and out of your way to make sure people you cared about were happy. Sometimes even to the determine yourself. You were so funny and had such a crazy laugh. You gave the absolute best hugs. You always let me steal your Johnny Blaze sweatshirt. You were wild, but you had such a gentle soul. I will always treasure all of these memories I have with you. I feel like I was so lucky to be able to experience a part of growing up with you. This world is surely a bit darker without you physically here, but thankfully you left us some of your light, your son, and all of us that love you, and will look out for him. Thank you. This next speech was written by Brittany Wilson, and it goes as follows. Galen would have done anything for his friends. He stepped in and acted as a sous chef on my wedding day, spending hours with someone he just met to make us all appetizers. I'm not sure how it would have ever been finished without his help. One year, a group of us went to the Outer Banks. One afternoon, a bunch of us girls were out lounging on rafts in the ocean, and Galen and his big heart were delivering us drinks straight to our rafts. I remember the waves were crashing all over him, and he would hold the drinks so high so the salt water wouldn't end up in him. And he was just so thoughtful and always thinking of others. This next speech was written by Michael Macon, and he was one of Galen's brothers and best friends. And it goes as follows. Whenever I've been asked to describe Galen by people who didn't have the privilege of knowing him, the first thing I always say is he has the most infectious laugh. Galen has the greatest ability to use that laughter and smile to remind me that no matter what was going on in life, everything was going to be okay. As I think about the impact that Galen has had in my life, I spiraled down 24 years of memories and emotions. I wanted to share a couple of my most meaningful moments with Galen. I met Galen on my first day of 6th grade at our lockers, middle school. As with a lot of people, was a very tough time for me. Not feeling like I could fit in, being very self-conscious about my appearance, and not being able to stand up for myself. Looking back as an adult now, Galen must have sensed those insecurities from me because his unwavering friendship and encouragement made me feel like I belonged for the first time in my life. And from that moment on, I would have, and many times did, follow Galen to hell or back. At 11 years old, Galen was more of a leader than a good number of adults. Galen touched so many aspects of my life and developed into the man I am today. The last memory I will share was our conversation about being fathers in May. We were catching up and talking about life and some personal issues I was struggling with, and he says to me, "Meehan, I am glad we both have kids, man. Isn't being a dad so dope?" I couldn't stop laughing because just like normal, and even though he wasn't in a great space either, he managed to make me feel like I was 11 years old again and everything was going to be okay. And he did it all only using 15 words. I just want anyone that sees or hears this to know that this was a man of fierce loyalty and friendship. I will forever have your back, big brother. This next speech was written by Kevin Cannon. He was a dear friend, a lifetime friend of Galen, and a good man. And it goes as follows. Galen and I had mutual friends, but our friendship really sparked when we found that we both loved ATVs, motorcycles, and 4x4 trucks. We already were putting off-roading accessories on our vehicles and didn't even have our driver's license. Once we were able to drive, you couldn't keep us out of our mud holes, rivers, or fields in the area. Post-high school, we were thousands of miles apart. Galen missed Maryland and decided to move back. I got kicked out of my house, and Galen kindly offered to split rent with me in an apartment his parents leased for him. We were 19 and didn't have any credit at the time. It was a pleasure having him by my side, transitioning from kids to young adults. We made the best meals and had the best parties as our friendship continued to grow. Next, we moved to the house in a town we grew up in with a bigger kitchen and more room and activities, Clarksville. Actually, it was right behind our high school. Later on, we found ourselves thousands of miles apart again, but still made sure to keep in touch. I remember calling Galen to tell him the news that our close friend had passed away. With that sad news, I received the great news that Galen and Melody were moving to Maryland. I had lost a good friend that day, but I was excited to be getting another back in my life. Our interests in our late 20s changed from off-roading to boating. Even with life getting in the way, we would always try to get on the water when we could, as much as possible. Meeting Melody in Kingston was exciting, and I could see why he was so happy. The love he had for his family was infinite. Galen's positive energy is what made him a great guy that everyone wanted to be around. I'm glad he considered me a friend, and I miss him dearly, and I know he will always be a part of us.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through, that I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the road and laugh, but something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days, hard work forever pays. Now I see you in a better place. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
First you both go out your way and the vibe is feeling strong, and what's small turn to a friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken, the love will never get lost. And when brotherhood come first, then the line will never be crossed. Established it on our own when that line had to be drawn, and that line is what we reach, so remember me when I'm gone. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
Let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. Oh, it's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you